I'm Patrick Andrews.
I'm Catherine Andrews, and you're tuned in to Oneness Talk Radio.
One world,
one voice.
Expand your vision. Welcome to Spirit's Journey, coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio and simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. Your hosts are Patrick and Catherine Andrews.
Join us each week as we explore a wide range of metaphysical topics such as dreams, astrology, intuitive readings, and life purpose. You'll receive practical guidance so that you can live your most awesome life.
Learn more about what we do at intuitiveschool.com and connect with us on Facebook at Spirit's Journey Radio. Welcome to Spirit's Journey. We are coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio, your protection from deception. We are also simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. You can find us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live as well. We are here in the Heartland holding the energy for spiritual truth and awareness. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Catherine. Welcome. We have an awesome show for everybody today. We have a fabulous medium that we're going to be speaking with. And before we get started with our guest, we just want to remind you that we have a sponsor called Wandering Star Jewelry. And it's a very unique line of jewelry based on your zodiac. So basically, you can order earrings, necklaces, bracelets, and they will be in the shape of your zodiac planets. So the planets, the houses, all around the necklace, exactly as they were at the moment you were born. And of course, you can choose the colors and lengths that you want to match your taste. In addition to getting your jewelry, you will also get a 15-page written interpretation and full color card explaining the purpose of the gemstones and your astrology chart. And as you wear the jewelry, one of the benefits is that it will remind you of your influences and your life purpose. And Julie of Wandering Star is offering a special 10% off any jewelry if you use the code SAVE10. So go ahead and check out their jewelry at wanderingstarjewelry.com. And now on to our guest today. We are so happy to have Traci Bray on the show today. She was only 5 years old when she first had contact with the first deceased person that appeared to her. And then in the mid-1990s, she began offering readings for the public at the urging of her friends. And Traci has an interesting background. She has a bachelor's degree in family services and a master's in law enforcement and justice administration. So for 2 decades, Traci has assisted individual, families, and systems toward change for improvement in the fields of domestic violence, sexual assault, corrections, and public transportation. She was a curriculum writer and trainer for 2 state-level law enforcement agencies. Traci is a level 5 certified research medium with the Windbridge Research Center, which we'll talk about what that means later on the show. And previously, she served as a certified medium with the Forever Family Foundation in New York. So welcome, Traci.
Thank you, Catherine. Thanks, Patrick. I'm glad to be here today.
Oh, we're excited to have you. We're looking forward to the conversation today.
So, Traci, let's begin by having you tell us a little about how you discovered you had these psychic and mediumship abilities.
Well, it's a progressive story. As you mentioned, Catherine, I recall the first dead person known to me when I was about 5 years old. And he just happened to be standing in our dining room after my mother was taking a phone call that he had passed away at work. So it was surprising to her, very surprising to me, I'm sure, but also very normal at the same time. And this was not something that was accepted in my home. So flash forward into my late 20s when, through a variety of events that had happened, I began to realize that this wasn't something everybody else did, and it was something that not only would they appear, but I could communicate with them.
Wow. So I had an experience years ago when I was first learning about spirit guides and things like that. And I remember when I was in meditation, I spent quite a bit of time talking to my spirit guide, wanting my spirit guide to appear to me. And I remember one time coming out of meditation and I started to see this kind of form starting to materialize in front of me. And then all of a sudden I just had this kind of fear shoot through me. And I was like, no, I don't think I really need that. So were you frightened when you first started getting these messages or seeing these people?
Not at all. I have never been frightened of what has come through from the other side. I will say that I have been frightened with a few clients that I've had over the years, but never with the other side.
Interesting.
And so I have known some mediums in the past, Traci, that had some difficulties because one in particular told me that he was not able to turn off the messages. In other words, he'd be walking down the street, he'd be, wherever he was, he'd be continually being bombarded by these messages from spirits. Mm-hmm. And it led to some difficulties for him. So I was curious, have you been able to turn off these messages at will? And if so, like, how do you learn to turn off the messages so that you can have some peace?
I have, and I'm really grateful that I'm somebody that is able to handle it like work. When I go to work, I'm reading. And part of it is that I have always believed that to look at anybody's stuff when I don't have their permission, which to me usually happens when we have an appointment set, is actually voyeurism. And I don't want to participate in that. Excuse me. Now, the other thing, sorry, I've got a bit of a cold, so I might cough some. But the other thing is that early on when I did fairs around mainly the Midwest, I noticed, and I was much younger then, but I noticed that some of the older mediums that I was around had a variety of health issues, and some had substance abuse issues. And I also started to notice that those were people that were on all the time. So there were a couple of things I did. One was through prayer, because I believe my work is very God, Spirit, Creator-based, that I just asked that it be turned off if they didn't have something that was in need. I was in need of having right then and there, or they needed me to do something with it, to please not interrupt, because I had a life I had to live. I had to be able to cope in the regular non-reading world. So that was one of the things that I did.
All right. Well, we understand you have a master's degree in law enforcement, which is pretty cool. So were you actually drawn to that because you had an intention of being able to work with the police in terms of solving cases?
Actually, no. Because right out of college, I had dispatched for a pretty large geographical area, police, sheriff, fire, etc. And although at that time I was not aware that I was a psychic and a medium, the messages that I'd get, I know, did come into play on a number of calls that we took. But the reason I went for the master's was I specifically had an interest in domestic violence. I'd been a program director for a sexual assault and domestic violence program. And I thought that the element that I was missing out on most was knowledge about the courts. So that initially is what, it was a cognitive reason that I sought it out. But I think, it all goes hand in hand when it's said and done.
And so have you been able to work with law enforcement in terms of using your mediumship psychic abilities to help solve any cases?
I have, but I have agreements with them that I never discuss specific cases. And being knowledgeable about law enforcement, working around law enforcement, I know that some of them, some of the officers or chiefs or sheriffs or whoever it is that I've connected with, don't want anyone to know that they're working with a psychic medium. And also to keep things confidential, because criminal issues can get pretty sticky. I've not talked about anything specifically publicly, but I've been involved with missing persons cases where the people have been found with the information, both alive and dead. One came through, in fact, with geographical, I think this is how you say it, the coordinates like a GPS would have.
Right.
So that has happened. Also regarding cases where there are strongly suspected foul play. I've worked with a ton of those, not a ton, but probably 2 or 3 a year. It never took up a majority of my time. I nearly always did it at no cost. Sometimes, in one of the last couple of cases, the last 2 that I worked on probably, I would say that I put at least 60 hours of time into one and over 40 in another. All volunteer.
Wow.
I'm not working on those right now, though.
Okay. And so I think it would be really neat to talk about the fact that you are a Windbridge certified research medium. And so a lot of people might not know what that means, but as I was reading, you went through some extensive things to be certified. So let's talk a little about what that involved to become certified by them.
Oh, certainly. It's one of my pieces of pride and joy in my life. Windbridge operates out of Tucson, Arizona. It originally began in the medical school there at the university and evolved out into what is now a private not-for-profit, a 501c3 organization. It's one of 5 organizations in the world that uses mediums for peer-reviewed studies. And it's run by a woman named Dr. Julie Beischel and her husband, Mark. And it's fascinating stuff. To get into it, they put out a call for folks years and years ago. And we filled out applications. I think there were 12 to 1,300 applicants. They finally shut the application process down because they only needed 20, and I was one of the 20 picked. There are all of the mediums that are in that program are really great. I've met some of them in person, nice folks with what I would call pretty normal lives, as I think I have a fairly normal life besides this work. And there were several steps that we went through. Would you like to hear those briefly?
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay. Well, we filled out a written questionnaire, and the second step was personality and psychological tests. If I recall correctly, we did the MMPR, I can't remember, but it's a common psychological test used. Then we did a phone interview we did 2 of those, one with an existing Windbridge certified research medium, and then with one of the Windbridge at that time investigators. And after that, we did 2 blinded phone readings. Now, if you're familiar with blinded readings, a lot of times people in research will do a double-blind protocol. We did a quintuple-blind protocol. That means that between the reader and the subject, which we call the sitter, there were 5 different blocks placed in there that basically eliminated the ability to cheat, to read minds, for the researcher to cheat. So it threw in a lot of different roadblocks for something inappropriate to go on. After that, we did some medium research training, and that included ethical concerns, et cetera, as well as human research subject training. And then, had a little bit of grief training along with that. This took several months to complete. It was quite thorough. One of the reasons that I gravitated toward it is because, 1, I have been so impressed with Dr. Beischel's work, and 2, the ethical manner in which this program operates.
So that would be a great way if somebody is looking for a medium to see, in fact, if they are Windbridge certified.
Yeah, at windbridge.org, there is a list of the research mediums there. Let me see. I think there were 20 of us, and I know 1 is anonymous. I'm just looking at them quick. And some of them are well-known names. Kim Russo, who's the happy medium, has a book out. Laurel and Jackson, who you might be familiar with, who also has a book out. Just great people.
Wow. So from what you're describing, you didn't really ask for this. This is something that spontaneously happened for you. So I know there may be some people out there who are curious about mediumship and maybe haven't had their own experiences. Is there anything that you can say to help them kind of understand, how this process works a little bit better?
Well, first I'd say that all mediums are different, and the way we receive information is unique, I believe, unto our guides and the dead that are actually coming through. It's a hard one because I've described myself to people many times as a medium by the seat of my pants. All of us with Windbridge were working as mediums prior to being accepted there. And we had a good deal of experience prior to that time. So for me, the process was trusting and believing the signs and the symbology, et cetera, that I was getting before I even knew I was a medium. I had, if you figure it didn't come to me that, oh gosh, this is something different than a lot of people experience until I was in my late 20s. All of that time between 5 years of age that I described previously and late 20s, I had a lot of odd experiences go on that other people weren't having. And a couple of the things that I did was I started to read what was available. I read a lot of biographies. I gravitated to them, for example, about John Edward, the medium out in New York. And Shirley MacLaine, the actress, who was experiencing in the early 80s, or in the 1980s, some really interesting things. And one thing led me to another, and I think that's an important piece too, is to just know that the path will come. I think one thing that wasn't available too much when I was going through this was were programs like yours, websites like yours, etc. And I would recommend to people today to follow both locally what's available to them as well as online.
Yeah, that's actually, when I got into this, I was always interested in paranormal experiences and psychic abilities, and I wasn't somebody that I would consider born with a natural gift, but I really developed my intuitive abilities through training and practice, and literally years of practicing different exercises, including meditation and visualization and things like that. So would you just say there's a difference between a medium, somebody who does mediumship like what you're doing, and somebody who's a psychic who might pick up on people's thoughts through telepathy, or maybe pick up on visions through psychometry or something like that? Is there a difference, or is it just how you're directing those abilities to be able to communicate with people who are no longer in the physical body?
I would say that it's something that came to me and was with me always, and not something that I necessarily studied specifically or trained for specifically. Although there are people that do. That's just not how it came to me.
So you also work with the Forever Family Foundation. Can you share what that is about?
Actually, I have worked with them through, and I'm not actively working with them currently, through Windbridge. All of the Windbridge mediums were grandfathered in to the Forever Family Foundation. They're at foreverfamilyfoundation.org, and they're a program, in my paraphrasing, that exists to put information out there about mediums, about the paranormal, about connecting with the dead, a variety of things. And they're centered out on Long Island in New York, and put out a wonderful newsletter, as does Windbridge every quarter. I'd encourage people to, Windbridge is a little bit more often, but I'd encourage people to look at both of the programs.
Well, I did want to mention we are going to accept callers today. We're not going to. Traci is not going to do readings on the air, but if you have questions about mediumship, she will answer questions about that. And we do have a call coming in from. Actually, the number here, if you want to call in and ask questions about mediumship, is going to be 213-233-3998. And in the UK, that would be 44203-393-2871. And if I went a little too fast for you, you can also go to the Truth Frequency Radio webpage at tfrlive.com, and the number is there also.
So, Traci, I would love to get into sharing, if you've had some, I'm sure over the years you've had some profound readings that you've done for people that have really stuck with you, that maybe you learned something from, or that would have like a general message for the world at large. Can you think of any that, really impacted you that you'd like to share?
Oh, gosh, a number of them have, and I've done so many that I tell people that I read for again. I rarely remember their readings, but there are some hallmark ones that stand out, and they're really pretty simple. I think one that always comes to mind, which about dropped me to my knees because it was so deeply meaningful to the family I was working with. The husband, father, 2 adult children, he had passed, and I was reading for the 2 adult children and their mother. And this is one of the times where trust the message I'm getting and just go with it. And I was hearing Frank Sinatra sing Fly Me to the Moon. And I thought, oh, for heaven's sakes, what's this have to do with anything? And I know to get out of the way of myself and just say, I don't know why, but I'm hearing Frank Sinatra singing Fly Me to the Moon. And I must say, that is a song that I at least once knew by heart. I used to sing it to the albums of my parents. But they all began to cry. And just a few months prior, the daughter had married, and at her reception, Fly Me to the Moon was the song played for her first dance. And it was her dad's favorite song. And that we had just been talking about the wedding, and that let them know, that little tidbit, which was huge to them. He's here, he's around us, he was at the wedding, he knew what was going on. So that was just a really simple but exciting one. The first couple of readings that I did where people came through, I, for other people, read and did psychic readings for a period of time, which I didn't answer that part of the question. If you want me to go back, I will in a moment. Okay. But a psychic reading, briefly, is where I invite people, if they have questions and concerns that aren't necessarily related to the dead, I entertain those as well. I do them separately from the medium questions because we know through some Windbridge work that when I read as a medium, I use one area of my brain. That's when I'm connecting with the dead. And when I read as a psychic, which is looking at past, present, and future stuff, I use another area of my brain.
Oh, that's fascinating.
And not all mediums are psychics, but, all mediums are psychics, but not all psychics are mediums.
Wow.
So anyway, go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, I was just going to say, I have a background in physics and biology because I'm just really interested in, the physiology of how this works. Did they actually do an MRI or an active MRI to map the brain to find that out?
I don't remember. And plus, I'm not allowed to talk specifically about
all right.
but I can let this go. We had very uncomfortable caps on.
Okay.
Whatever those were. And Julie Beischel, by the way, has a PhD in biology. It's probably longer than that, but you would share an interest with her, as well as her husband, Mark Bocuzzi of Windbridge, who is interested in paranormal things. So I encourage you to reach out to them. But another one of the readings the 2 that have always stuck with me were the first 2 I did about 3 weeks apart from one another, where I had been doing psychic readings to begin with. And at the end of readings, I pretty much always have said, did we get to everything you wanted to look at today? Or did we get to everything you wanted to look at today? And one woman said to me, this was in the Quad Cities, Davenport and Bettendorf, Iowa, and Rock Island, Moline, Illinois. She said, yeah, is there anybody here that wants to talk to me? And I froze and was really rather panicky because nobody had ever asked me that before. And honestly, I'm not kidding. This sounds really silly, but I thought, well, doesn't everybody do this? Doesn't everybody talk to their loved ones? And I sat with what seemed like for a very long time after telling her, yeah, I'd take a look at that. And all I could see at that time were symbols, and they were a ball and jacks, a little red rubber ball and the metal jacks. And I sat on that and thought, what in the world am I supposed to do with this? And then it dawned on me, and I said, oh, Jack's here. Well, the woman, it's like, duh. The woman, affect, how she reacted to the reading, to that piece of information was really rather remarkable. I thought she was going to pass out or vomit, honestly. She was just so overtaken. And my common sense told me to just tell her to hang on and let me see what Jack had to say. Jack was her dad. I didn't know this, who had died about 3 months prior to the reading. He had a ton of stuff to tell her about the estate. It was as an extremely wealthy family who, and I also did not know that, and there was some sniping going on between the surviving children, and Jack had a lot to say about that.
Awesome. Well, Traci, we're going into the break, and so we'll be back. So if you have more about that story, we can continue after the break. This is Spirit's Journey on Truth Frequency Radio, and we'll see you on the other side.
Do you have a product or service that assists humanity? Oneness Talk Radio is your unique opportunity to reach a responsive audience. Marketing budgets need to show value, and as a community of positive intention and commitment to planetary evolution, sponsorship of Oneness Talk Radio makes perfect sense. Our current sponsors are enjoying positive returns and increased customer flow. Epoch Lasers is one of those sponsors, and here is the owner sharing from Twin Flame Divine Fire.
The interest levels have definitely increased. People are acquiring the devices and are quite satisfied, and we are back from patients as well that are happy with the result.
Imagine the expansion you can enjoy as a sponsor of a single show or the entire network. Discover how you can honestly stretch the value of your advertising dollars with our affordable rates and vast worldwide audience. Just send an email to Sandra@OnenesssTalkRadio.com today. That's Sandra@OnenesssTalkRadio.com.
Hi, I'm Jess Junnin, host of Soul Fusion Cafe at Oneness Talk Radio. Perhaps the most important relationship we have is our relationship with ourselves and our true nature. Each and every one of us possess the gifts, the knowing, and the tools to ascend into our most radiant version of who we truly are. This is your invitation to awaken ever more fully to the truth of your being. Conversations with Jess, quantum energy healer, counselor, and midwife for the awakening soul, offer your touchstone to awakening to the love that you are. Radiant wellness is yours to claim. Soul-guided meditations and visiting guests are part of the delicious dive into radiant well-being and soul-forward living. Grab a cup of tea, cozy up, and sink into the cocoon we create at Soul Fusion Cafe each week on Sunday evenings at 4:30 p.m. Pacific Time.
Welcome back from the break. This is Spirit's Journey, coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio and simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. I am Patrick.
And I'm Catherine. Just want to remind everybody, our sponsor is Wandering Star Jewelry. So if you would like a tool to help you manifest more in your life, I've got something that's It's not only practical, but also beautiful. Destiny Jewelry from Wandering Star. This is a jewelry line of talismans that you can use as meditation tools to manifest in specific realms of your life. So the folks at Wandering Star Jewelry have identified areas that people are working to transform, such as empowerment, health, money, love, and stress relief. So you can work your way around the Destiny necklaces and bracelets bead by bead, spending time with each one and saying affirmations. So Julie from Wandering Star is offering a 10% off. Use the code SAVE10 and go to wanderingstarjewelry.com. And now back with Traci Bray, our medium guest, and we have a caller up. If she wants to call in again, she keeps coming and going. Lisa, give us a call back. We were ready to take your call.
So, Traci, did you have any more you wanted to add about your story? We were talking about a really interesting story when we left for the break.
No, that was about it. It was just, it was pretty meaningful to me. And the funny thing is, I left that reading on my way home. I was somewhere else doing it. And I thought, that was pretty cool. And that's about all I thought about it until about 3 weeks later, something similar happened again. And it was at that time, it was a huge reading. And at that time, it dawned on me, oh, this medium stuff is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Oh, that was a great little life purpose guidepost there. And so what kind of benefit, why do you do this work? I'm sure it's fulfilling, but in your own words, what do you receive benefit-wise?
Well, I love it, and it's extremely satisfying to see people garner hope from it, in that the soul continues to live after the physical body dies, and they receive that through validations. That is what is called an evidential medium, which means I should be able to produce info that gives them that information, and also just the love and the warmth that comes through in readings and the concern and guidance available from the other side. They're wonderful things to be able to share. And I don't know that even though my career path was going in a much different direction with the law enforcement stuff, I experienced a severe illness and was not able to go back to that work. And I think that illness probably happened in the grand scheme to push me into the medium work full time.
Well, one thing I was wanting to find out your perspective on, sometimes people have this concept that because somebody does not have a physical body, that sometimes they're more knowledgeable than people that are here on the earth, and they look to them for more guidance. Do you feel like the people that you talk to who are deceased, are they any more wise, or are they just like normal people that you might run into on a daily basis?
That's an interesting question. I would say I've never seen, and this would be my opinion, my observation, I've never seen the deceased offer bad advice, negativity, harmful things to the living, ever. Now, sometimes I've been really impressed with some of the things they have to say, because it's often in readings as if I'm standing out of body looking at the reading thinking, dang, that was really, really neat what they came up with there. I never would have thought of that. And I think the living sometimes think of that too. But it never, from my vantage, seems to be out of the realm of the concern that the dead has for the living. Now, I don't do a whole lot of work with spirit guides and teachers, the angelic realm, although they all come through every once in a while. I do some past life work, but I find in the angelic realm, spirit guides and teachers, that's when some really advanced, I suppose, information comes through.
So do you think that maybe when people are deceased, when they don't have a physical body anymore, and they're experiencing things from that non-physical energy being perspective, that maybe it's just their change in perspective that kind of helps give them this clarity of understanding?
I think that's part of it. And two, I think that when we move to the other side, that we don't have worries and concerns anymore like we did in the physical realm. I describe it as if you took a globe of the earth and put sticky tape all over it and yanked it off, all of the crummy stuff comes off for the other side. The other side is not dealing with, in my experience, with illness, hatred, war, hunger, poverty, etc. And when you remove all of that ugliness, family issues, relationship issues, work issues, thinking becomes much more clear and focused.
That's really interesting, because one of the things I was going to ask you is, I know so many people here who have deceased relatives and family members that want to speak to them say, oh, I want, these people to contact me, but I don't get messages from them. And in my opinion, it's usually that the messages are coming to them all the time, but like you were just talking about, their conscious mind is distracted with everything going on in the physical world, all the problems we deal with on a day-to-day basis with money, jobs, raising a family, whatever, that our noise level in the mind is so high that those messages aren't getting through to us. Would you agree?
I do agree with that, very much so. And I don't want to set, I have people that come to me, as you mentioned, that believe they're not getting messages at all. But I find also that those folks have either been set up with our our media on what is a message. Like if we watch some of the shows that are out there or movies, they're huge. A spirit, a person will manifest in full physical form and start a chat. And I've heard of that happening, but frankly, not very often. So it's looking for the signs in nature and in music and in electronics, to name a few, that street lights. There's so much around us if we open our eyes. And then I tell people, just believe it. Just believe it. If you think you've gotten a sign, just believe it. Say thank you. Ask for it to happen again.
Yeah, I find that's a really good way to set that up, is simply create the intention. That goes back to some of the things that we teach about how our mind really creates the experiences in our lives. And so by creating a very specific thought and holding that clearly in mind, we can really set those things into motion and then draw to us whatever we need to help do that. So like with dream interpretation, just inviting the dream to come to you and being ready to record it in the morning with a notebook, or if it's maybe getting a message from a loved one. We've had students who have gotten messages from loved ones in the dream state, and then sometimes just during the day. Have you found those experiences also?
For myself personally, not as much, but I hear that from clients a lot. I am a precognitive dreamer about air crashes. But as far as messages in my dream state, I am not as aware of them as I think a lot of people are. Boy, and the ones that have them, the way they describe what I call visitations from the dead, they know the way they talk enthusiastically about what has happened, and they know that their loved one was there. They could feel the touch. They could feel an embrace. They saw them in the doorway as they were dreaming. They knew it was them. And that's a visitation. So I think people that have those, it's so fortunate.
Yeah, I think those are very exciting. I've talked to a lot of students and people along the way over the years who've had those. So I definitely believe that those are occurring regularly, and even if we don't remember it, sometimes they may be happening. Do you have any events or anything like that to share, or how can people get in touch with you for appointments and things like that if they're interested in contacting you?
Well, the main hub would be my website, which is my name, Traci with an I, Traci, Bray, BRAY.com, TraciBray.com. And on that, as far as scheduling goes, there's a scheduling tab for self-scheduling where you can schedule for an in-person or a telephone reading. I believe that when I do, I don't think there's a difference that much between telephone and in-person readings. because I tell people I read for you, I don't read you. There are some mediums that need to be in someone's presence, but I don't. Also on the website are appearances and events and current specials. As far as events go right now, I just came back from Ocean City, Maryland, where I was doing private readings. A Valentine's Day event I have for an in-person thing is full. I do have private in-person readings coming up the first weekend in March, and also March 22nd through 24th in Kansas City. In that latter thing, I'm doing a breakfast medium group. It's just open to the public, where a few of us sit around at breakfast and I tell them who's coming through. And I do the same thing in Baldwin City, Kansas. I go down there with their rec center and read several times a year. So those are some things that are on the website right now. There's also a tab of current specials, and there are 4 up there right now. One went up a little bit before the call today, a 30% discount on our phone sessions. And then I do channeled messages, which I just love doing. And the specials for those are all written channeled message packages. One is a year of weekly channeled messages. Another is holiday channeled messages. And another one is a shorty of equinox solstice channeled messages.
Great. Well, we can also include those links on our follow-up on Spirits Journey Radio on Facebook when we're posting information about the replay. If people miss the show, or if they want to tell somebody about the show, and send it to a friend so they can listen to the replay of that, and we'll include that information as well.
Super. Thank you.
So have you received any insights about 2019 with your work, or any things coming up in the future for the world, or anything like that?
In readings, yeah. One thing that comes up frequently with people that are retiring or are really fastidious about planning their retirement years, finances and investments come up. And I know that a number of years ago, this one even, I think as early as 2008, I was then getting information about the economy crashing, which the time frame was what I was getting is actually what happened. And again, I had been getting that 2019 would be a worrisome year for people. But for those that were able to hang in there with, and I'm not giving financial advice, I'm just passing on what I saw. For those that are concerned about that, to just keep on moving through it, that we'll move through the politics and some rises and falls, which we've already seen in the last few months in the stock market. So that would be one. People typically, in the readings I do, don't ask questions of world concern. There have been times where at the end of a calendar year, where I'll do predictions. This current year, I did not.
Because, yeah, we asked that because I know when we asked the previous question, are souls who are disincarnate more wise than people here on the earth walking around in bodies? And one of the perspectives that I see on that is that when they're not in a body, apart from what you mentioned, that they're not bombarded with daily worries and war and all this, the other thing is that they have a 360-degree perspective, because when they're not in a body, they can see more than we can with our limited, physical vision. Most of us, some of us can see more.
Right.
So I would think that, they say that when you die, your consciousness doesn't really change. Like who you were in a body is who you still are going to be. So those who are more interested in humanitarian concerns while in a body, when they pass over, those may be the souls that are able to and desire to communicate more of the worldly information to us.
I believe that is true. And that does come up quite frequently. Someone who was philanthropic with time or money will come through and talk about what they're doing in regard to whatever their particular focus was here. They're still working on that there. Now, that happens for people that were military, that are in governmental service, people that have worked on climate change. I've seen some of them come through. So, yeah, their work continues on.
Now, Traci, we have a question coming in from our chat board on Truth Frequency Radio. There was a comment that some empaths, or I think this may extend to people with psychic abilities, aren't really able to watch TV. They're bothered by electronics and especially streetlights and things like that. Do you have that experience, or have you talked to other people in your field who have difficulty with electronics and being around them?
Yes, I have. The only thing that I have noticed with me is since I was a little kid, when I got my first Timex watch at age 8, I was going through several watches a year, and that wasn't because I wasn't losing them. They would just quit. And I gave up wearing watches decades ago. I know of some that experience a lot of computer issues. Many of us, with Windbridge, for example, I know use the computer a lot. Some have more problems than others. So it's interesting what happens.
Yeah, I was having that same experience. It's so funny you mentioned with the watches, because as I was developing my abilities, it was, probably about 4 or 5 years into my journey that I began to notice, like, the watches that I was wearing, they would just get faster and faster and faster, and then eventually they'd stop working. And I think I had the same experience, that I went through like 2 or 3 watches and finally gave up wearing them, and I got a pocket watch and started carrying a pocket watch around with me before we had the cell phones. And now the cell phone, we can get the time off of that. And then also had another experience with, you were talking about computers. I remember one time coming home and I was upset, and I flipped on a light and the light just blew and burned out. And the first time it was no big deal. I mean, that happens all the time. But then I flipped on another light and it blew, and I flipped on a third one and it blew. And I thought, okay, I need to settle down here before I don't have any more lights in my house.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear all kinds of different things like that. The radio popping on with or the stereo, the car radio with a song that was a favorite song of a loved one that has passed, and all kinds of electronic things. But the watches are the main one I've had issues with.
Well, yeah, I think it goes back to, we know that energy has to manifest when we have a lot of anger pent up or whatever, and if we don't release it, it's going to get released in its own way.
Now, we had a follow-up question, and it was asking about the street lights. Now, do you think the street lights and why some people are affected is similar to like the fluorescent lights? I know a lot of people get affected by fluorescent lights in buildings. Is that somehow related, do you think?
Not what I was thinking of, actually. And I know many street lights are electronically timed for if there is a vehicle coming, for example, they'll switch on. So I'm excluding those. But there are clients that tell me that street lights will just go on randomly in front of them, even when they've been standing, when they're talking, for example, about their loved one that has passed. So that's more what I was referring to with that.
Oh, all right.
So, Traci, I was curious. I read a lot of Edgar Cayce works, and from his readings, one of the things that stuck with me, he said, was that one of the best ways, or quickest ways for souls to advance on the journey was to engage in service. And so I was curious, with all the readings you've done, have people received any advice in terms of what they can do to improve their life, or improve their, potential to advance from a soul's perspective?
Not in those words, but that topic comes up frequently. And it's both a question of the sitter, the client, as well as information that's offered by the other side. Some of it may have to do with healing, but often if it's about healing themselves, for example, it might be to engage with others who are maybe going through a similar thing. And to me, that's a reciprocal exchange of energy where the one that is maybe in a healing group, for example, who has information to give to someone who's really having difficulty, both of them win with that because they get to experience that type of service, that type of learning. As far as other pieces of service, gosh, I've had with people many times through the years where we're talking about their career path, and the deceased will come in with information sometimes that's totally left field for folks that are receiving the reading. And all of a sudden I'll hear from the sitter, the client, "Oh, wow, do you know, I've thought about doing that for years, but I just never blah, blah, blah." And I've seen people purchase farms, restaurants, change their path of study in college, run for public office, just a variety of really cool things because they've come up in the reading.
And that's awesome that they followed that guidance and did it. Yeah.
And some people don't follow the guidance. For some people, it doesn't resonate. Maybe it does later, and I never know. So readings, the information that clients receive in them, totally up to them what they do with it. And I don't think there are any penalties on the other side if they don't follow it. It's just information exchanged. I approach readings that the information that comes through in goodness for the client, for the spirit, and for me, because I don't want to mess around with anything else. And then they never have to.
Right. So I was curious, have you ever gone to do a reading and you don't get any contact? And could it be that the person has already taken on another body and they're no longer in the spirit world? Or do most people contact you soon after a passing?
Oh, gosh. People contact me from the day prior, no kidding, to 10, 20 years later. And that doesn't even limit the number of years a person's been gone there, whether they come through or not. My belief is that, and my experience would tell me, and I believe in reincarnation, but my experience would tell me that when the body dies and the soul passes, I believe the soul fragments into many different pieces, some of which are maybe reincarnated at different times into a number of different bodies. Probably the most of those fragments, the majority, I don't have any idea where those go. There's so much I don't know.
Well, Traci, we're coming up on the top of the hour here, so we have just a couple of minutes. Can you repeat one more time how people can get in touch with you?
Yes. My website is my name, tracibray.com, TRACIBRAY.com. I also post nearly daily on Facebook under Traci Bray Medium, again, TRACIBRAY Medium. Those would be the main ways. And my phone number is available on both my Facebook page and my website, should people have any questions that they aren't finding the answers to.
Excellent. And once again, for everybody, if you didn't get that in time, you can also listen to the replay, and we will have the links on our Facebook page at Spirits Journey Radio.
Traci, this has been so illuminating. I've learned a lot. So thank you so much for coming on the air and for the work that you do.
Yeah, thanks for coming on with us.
Thanks so much. My pleasure. I enjoyed it.
Excellent.
All right. So, and we are lucky that she is in the Kansas City area. So we all know Valentine's Day, the big day, is coming up. And if you are looking for a gift for that special person, check out WanderingStarJewelry.com. They even have a line called the Mommy Jewelry line for Wandering Star. And these are custom multi-strand necklaces that feature strands for kids, mom, and dad. You could also get one for your partner, your best friend, whoever you want to remember this Valentine's Day. It can be a personalized necklace or charm bracelet. I love their Zodiac jewelry line, which covers all 12 Zodiac signs. And this jewelry helps you to harness your Zodiac sign's special energy and balance your strengths and weaknesses. And each of the 12 Zodiac jewelry designs feature a pewter bead with your Zodiac symbol. And next to it is a semi-precious stone bead that represents the ruling planet associated with your Zodiac sign. And you can call on these beads as the source of your talents and strengths. So in moments of stress, you can play with those stones and call in the positive energies of the Zodiac signs. So this is a great jewelry idea for Valentine's Day at wanderingstarjewelry.com, or you can email the owner at julie@wanderingstarjewelry.com, 10% off with the code SAVE10.
We love having you with us, so please connect with us at Facebook, Spirits Journey Radio. Be sure to like our page so that we can be part of your life. And you can study with us at intuitiveschool.com. We have a number of programs and more coming out in 2019. This has been Spirits Journey live on Truth Frequency Radio and simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. I'm Patrick Andrews.
And I'm Catherine. Have an awesome week.
Goodbye for now.
This is a Oneness Moment with Jess Juntunen on Oneness Talk Radio. Expand your vision.
This is a meditation connecting to the heart. If you're in a place that is safe to do so, allow yourself to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that. And just begin by following your breath in and out, and just noticing your breath. And as you do, become conscious of what it feels like as it enters the lungs and leaves the lungs. Feeling it as a beautiful crystalline light that you're inhaling it through the nose and exhaling through the mouth. And feel this crystalline light that you're inhaling, traveling and circling up into the top of your crown of your head, down into your belly and filling your lungs, and exhaling out into the world. And with its crystalline light, begin to feel a beautiful energy of love entering, filling you, and leaving you. You are a vessel, and you are becoming this energy of love as it fills you, and it travels on and touches each and every being on the planet, and you are feeling this incredible love for all beings as you follow your breath in and out, in and out. And you come into the center of your heart. In the center of your heart, you feel this beautiful, radiant blue jewel. A blue jewel that is shining. Feel the energy of it. See it in your mind's eye. Experience it in whatever way you want to, in any way that feels right. You might just have a knowing. You might have a feeling. You might have a sense of sight or sound. But know that there's this beautiful blue jewel in the center of your heart, and you're connecting to it now. And you breathe and feel this beautiful balance coming in and around you, connecting to your breath and connecting to your heart. Connecting these two energies connects you to the eternal field of the universe, the field of the soul, the field of your divine nature, your cosmic connection. And feel this jewel in the center of your heart, this balance and harmony, and you feel around you these harmonic tones, and they swirl around you. And you notice and feel yourself as in a temple. And in this temple, you gaze about you and feel through the top of the roof where there's an opening, all of this beautiful energy coming down and filling this temple and filling you. It's a beautiful golden energy. Feel this filling you up. Feel this sustaining you. Feel this as a pulse, all of your cells vibrating, all of your being coated in this beautiful golden light, anything dissolving or sloughing off that doesn't serve, and just feeling this divine vibration and that connectedness to the blue jewel in the center of your heart. And this blue jewel is emanating a beautiful light that connects with the golden light all around, and you are infused and filled and supported as you go about the rest of your day, taking a few more mindful breaths Feeling your beautiful body here and bringing a smile to your face. Telling yourself thank you for taking this moment to connect to the blue jewel in the peaceful center of your heart. Namaste.
Learn more about Jess Juntunen at her host page, right here at OneNessTalkRadio.com. Oneness Talk Radio. Hip, fresh, fun. Tune in to an honest portal of positivity 24/7. Experience unique talk radio from all around the planet, perfectly mixed with music that enchants your soul. Discover oneness moments as you relax into 3 to 5 minutes of divine inspiration. Claim your oneness today. OneNessTalkRadio.com. One world, one voice. Expand your vision.
Through the allness, you discovered oneness. Welcome home.